Hey guys, before we start, just letting you know that at the end of this video, I'll be doing a little channel update to talk about what you can expect from me in terms of content in the coming months. So stick by if you want to hear it, and don't forget to give this video a quick like and comment because hey, it helps me out a lot.
That was fighting for gay rights, and people were killed.
Nobody was killed at Stonewall.
Nobody was killed.
Season 17 just had a really refreshing premiere, and by premiere, I mean the first 4 episodes have just aired. I gotta be honest, with the way season 16 blew expectations out of the park by delivering a season that was pinned as one of the best editions of the series, at least out of the double-digit era. So once it came to say goodbye to it, there was a slight worry that maybe this year it wasn't gonna be nearly as good. Now granted, it's only just started, so things could still go stale at any moment, but I thought I might as well go over everything that's transpired until now and take a look at some of the things the series seems to have done better, the things they could improve, and how to feel about this new cast. But before we start, this video is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to help entrepreneurs and creators build a standout online presence. Squarespace has everything you need to succeed. They combine years of industry-leading design expertise with cutting-edge AI technology, making it easier than ever to create a stunning personalized website tailored to your unique vision. I've been blown away by how simple it is to build a site that fits your brand aesthetic to a T. Here's some of what they offer that could pique your interest. First is, as mentioned before, design intelligence that will help guide you step by step, meaning if you're not a designer, you can build something beautiful and professional in no time. Plus, you'll get custom curated content and visuals that match your brand aesthetic effortlessly. Then we have Squarespace Payments. If you're selling products, services, or content, this is a game changer. It's easy to set up and you can offer your customers flexible payment options like Apple Pay, Klarna, or Afterpay. Whether you want a sleek and modern look or something bold and creative, these tools make it so easy to customize every detail. Are you ready to bring your vision to life? Head to squarespace.com for a free trial and click the link in the description to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Now, let's begin. To start off, we have to go with the water-themed promo that they decided to go with. Last year, I, along with most of the fan base, critiqued the horrible color choice that they decided to go with, along with the weird military theme that was surprising because you know good and well that there was a production meeting with several other themes that they could have chosen from, but still felt that this was the most visually appealing aesthetic to go with. But anyways, I appreciate the level of effort that was put into these cast photos. It seems pretty elaborate for a production that hasn't shied away from just putting queens in front of a bland wall and calling it a day. Plus, it's about time that they realized that the promo itself is something that's highly anticipated in the fanbase, helping jumpstart that initial hype in the preseason period. One thing I do wonder, and maybe one of you can answer this, is that I'm not sure if this was done during the season or months after, because production tends to go back and forth on when they'll film the promos every couple years. However, something tells me, just based on how elevated most of these looks are, that it was probably done pretty recently. Another big surprise that caught a lot of people off guard was the format change for Untucked. It was such a pleasant surprise to see that they finally addressed what fans had been complaining about for years now, which was that a big reason behind the lack of drama was that the queens were forced to sit in the same area, so there was less of a chance for people to actually throw out shade. But now, queens seem to be encouraged to hang out in different areas of the set, with seats and drink tables placed all around. It's no longer just a backstage area, instead it acts more as an extended version of itself that should continue to evolve over the next seasons that are coming up. Like, it'd be cool if at one point there was an entirely separate room that the contestants can go into so that they can have a straight up private conversation to either gossip or, in the case of All Stars, to scheme and strategize. In terms of actual Untucked storylines, my advice is that if you haven't been tuning in to this season's Untucked, you should give it a shot by checking out at least the first couple episodes, because they've proven to be quite fun, especially with queens like Joella really just living in their own fantasies that has made it so that every Untucked, we've had clips that will go viral on social media. Something that wasn't happening, for example, with All Stars 9, that I personally consider the worst Untucked season in history. I couldn't even finish it because it was so boring. I mean, when would you say was the last time that you truly were invested in the Untucked aspect of one of the modern editions of the franchise? These small changes have been significant in acting like a key indicator about what to expect from season 17. Let me explain. In season 16, in terms of genuine drama, we had the first 5 episodes of the season being governed by the villainous Plain Jane that went after the weakest girl in the group, becoming the most talked about narrative online that abruptly ended as soon as a mandatory meeting was out the door. That's where the drama in terms of long-standing conflict ended for that season. There was just not a lot of other queens in the cast that had enough nerve to argue back at Plain. So it made most of Plain confronting others feel a lot more one-sided. On the other hand, in the first 4 episodes of season 17, there's so many conflicts that's happening among the cast, which many have been crediting to Plain Jane for changing the dynamics of how contestants approach the way they behave. Since even though the main selling point of Plain Jane's brand is to be this unapologetic villain, she still made it all the way to 3rd place with 4 challenge wins under her belt. Like, she truly dominated the season, only being outbested by Saphira Crystal and Nymphia Wind. Her genuine talent made it so that a really bad first impression from the fans that pinned her as a bully in the first couple weeks were living for her by the time they were approaching the finale. Therefore, while it was jarring at first, it made you appreciate her for not caring about the reaction the viewers at home were gonna have, and prove that parts of your personality will be appreciated even if it takes a little while. That's one of the reasons why perhaps this time around, queens are not thinking as much about if they're being too shady, out of fear of what the fans might say. They instead know that there's a very big possibility that people are gonna live for the fact that someone is just being their genuine self. Joella being a perfect example, whose first impression wasn't the best, because her talent show wasn't something to write home about. So to see her be so confident in shading everyone else in the room felt annoying to many of the viewers. That being said, it did not take long for people to start to flip their opinion on her, as they realized that she's actually a pretty fun character to watch unfold in the competition. Like, I much rather have someone that maybe is having a weak run, but they're still being energetic with their presence on the episodes, rather than getting in their head, being quiet, and just waiting until they're inevitably sent home. Having said all that, when it came to Katy Perry, I'm aware that she gets a lot of hate online, so this has nothing to do with all that. It just really seemed like she didn't even feel like being there. Sure, she was smiling, being friendly with everyone, yet I don't know. Do you know what I mean when I say that something about her felt a bit off? Nevertheless, since Katy has always been supportive of queer people, I'll just assume that she was maybe having a bad day. In contrast, Doechie's presence felt a lot more engaging, which is surprising given that she's a lot more newer with being in the public eye. Yet maybe that's why she came across a lot more genuine with how she reacted to everything. Plus the added benefit of not having Woman's World be a part of her music catalog. But we'll get to that later. Someone online shared the actual ratings from each premiere episode starting from season 9 that had a well-known celebrity to help kick off the season on a high note. Lady Gaga is actually still in first place with over 900,000 viewers tuning into VH1 for the premiere of the first episode. This was followed by Christina Aguilera's season 10 appearance, and in 3rd place we have Ariana Grande with season 15, which was also the first season to be under the network of MTV. But shockingly, in last place we have season 17's premiere with Katy Perry, which I guess proves that yeah, Katy really isn't all that relevant anymore. So it did come as a big surprise that she's actually ranked lower than Halsey. I guess when it comes down to it, production really does have to go for celebrities that are on high demand if they do want to knock the first episode's ratings on a high note. Another upgrade this year was the actual main stage of Drag Race being made a lot bigger with more LED panels and overall a much more expensive set. When it was first announced last year during season 16's Lip Sync Smackdown that it was going to be the new main stage, there was a bit of a mixed reaction. Personally, I was open to it because it makes sense that as the flagship franchise, they'd want to differentiate themselves more from the ever-growing main stages that are popping up all around the world. This was a much needed change, and while not perfect, I hope that they're able to adjust and learn as they keep using it over the years. For example, queens with certain colors in their look should have colors in the background that contrast with them to help highlight the details on their costume. Sometimes we've seen how queens with certain colors get swallowed up by the stage's background color, so you don't appreciate their look as much. Although I'd be curious to hear your thoughts, cause I've seen a couple people express that they found the background to be a little distracting. Yet it's not as distracting as some of the choices that have been made for some of of RuPaul's looks. Which brings me to my next point. It's been a bit disappointing lately to see the drag that Ru has been bringing to the main stage. Granted, she's done dozens of seasons, so they can't have every single look she displays be the most glamorous, expensive thing, along with it not necessarily being something that fans are constantly looking forward to, but it is nevertheless a key part of each episode that we do pay attention to. Unfortunately, looking at her episode 1 look for instance, it's a pretty big downgrade from what we know she's capable of, especially for the first episode of the season, which is arguably when you really want to be gagging your audience. So it is pretty underwhelming since you think just like the other franchises put an effort into dressing up their hosts, that maybe she shouldn't be looking like a lot of her wigs and outfits are just picked out at random. Although her most recent look was pretty well executed. I just hope that we can start seeing her go more out of the box to really blow our expectations away in the future. So then that actually brings me to a big elephant in the room that we need to discuss. And that's of course the talent show. We have now officially reached the boiling point in terms of what contestants decide to bring for their talent showcase. Listen, I'm not someone that hates on the queens that decide to do an original song that they lip sync to. So while most of the time they are underwhelming, we've seen it done in a way that feels so fresh. Some examples being Anitra's season 15 Duck Walk song, Aja's All-Stars 3 talent show that incorporated voguing, and the huge gag that was Mirage's season 16 song that ended up being a huge hit with the fans. But performances like this tend to be outliers from the rest. Let's unpack this. The common argument made is that lip syncing is a talent, since it is what queens do in their day-to-day life at clubs. All of that is 100% true. At the same time, there's been so many of these original songs made that if it isn't offering anything new to the table, then I'd much rather they select an actual song that production can license for them. Like on season 15, where Amethyst and Jax just chose a random song that they could perform in front of the judges. Now that is truly showcasing what queens do in their local scenes. Instead of this, original songs have been boiled down to really bad lyricism about how sickening they think they are, and how everyone better watch out because they're gonna slay the competition. It's pretty much the most generic choice that you can make at this point, especially if it's a song that doesn't really have a clear concept that's present. The reason I bring this up is because season 17 had the great majority of its acts consist of these original songs. Yet how did everything even get to this point? I remember the first 2 talent shows to ever take place, there was a lot more variety in terms of what contestants would bring. I can pinpoint All-Stars 4 being the year that a very telling precedent was set for the queens moving forward. It's here that the infamous decision to not put Gia Gunn's Kabuki showcase anywhere near the top 2 for the challenge was made, with Mo Hart's song about her brown cow stunning meme or Trinity the Tuck song about how to tuck your junk was placed in the top 2 instead. It was as if talents that were actually fresh and original would take a back seat as lip sync numbers to original songs would be given preferential treatment. This is pretty significant to the evolution of the series, cause imagine for a second if it had been the other way around. Had production rewarded the out-of-the-box talents, then it would have empowered future contestants to want to do the same. I mean, to me, even Scarlet Envy's All-Star 6 talent where she did Bubbles is a good example. It wasn't exactly a winning performance by any means, but I still appreciate it so much to see an actual display of an interesting talent. But anyways, back to the topic at hand, the season 17 talent shows were still cute to watch. But yes, I do hope that soon we start to see things that actually make it feel like a variety show. Our next point to talk about is the twist of the Badunka dunk tank, where if a queen pulls the right lever, they'll dunk Michelle into the tank and be able to stay in the competition despite losing their lip sync for your life. The question everyone's been asking is whether or not the lever is rigged. And the answer to that is probably, yet I don't like using that word, because most of the time fans use the word rigged as if it's something that invalidates the whole competition, when really it just comes down to perspective. For instance, the rule for this twist is that there's 2 chances that will be given out if the eliminated queen of the week is able to pick out the right lever. So production is in line when they say that there is a very real possibility lingering there, meaning that it comes down to whether a given queen will be given the blessing. But for every queen that pulls the wrong lever, there's an even bigger chance of the next one getting it right. So I would also not be surprised if they had 2 numbers pre-selected and just decided to leave it up to chance. What I liked the most about this premiere twist was how it really put our Mona Lisa, the loser of the lip sync, in a position where she really felt the stress of thinking that she was the pork chop of the season, which is part of what makes it more suspenseful for us as viewers. The only critiques I have is that maybe I would have changed having Michelle Visage be the person getting dunked to instead having one of the pit crew members do it instead. Having it be Michelle, while it's fun to see, kind of takes the seriousness away from the moment, especially when we see her sort of happy about the fact that the eliminated queen is in fact going home, since it means that she won't have to be getting wet. Plus, since the pit crew members are treated like objects, it would be the equivalent of having a mannequin up there. We just don't ever see the person behind their app, so it's hard to imagine who they are as people. I'm also a little shocked that when the eliminated queens walk off, production didn't even bother to A, get the levers out of the way, or B, get an angle where we can clearly see the queen having their final moment on the main stage. Instead, the levers sort of block the queen, which I don't know if this was done on purpose for some type of artistic approach, but like, it just feels like they're getting in the way of the shot. So I'm hoping that at some point in the season, they realize this and fix it. Another thing that I did feel the need to address is the cash prize. At this point, $200,000 just feels sort of cheap to me given how elevated they've made everything else seem. We all know that it took them 10 years since season 4, which was the last time they upgraded the prize to $100,000, and that it wasn't until All-Star 7 that they finally raised it up to $200,000 in honor of the first all-winner season. Despite that, this was a change that should have happened much earlier, like on season 9 or season 10. Plus, if we consider that Big Brother's cash prize is about $700,000 and Survivor has handed their winning players $1 million, it's needless to say that at this point in time, Drag Race's prize should be at a minimum $500,000 that goes along with the crown and title of America's Next Drag Superstar. It would in turn add a lot more significance to what it means to be a winner. I mean, after all, that's beyond life-saving money. I noticed a lot of people online discussing that for episode 3 on the design challenge, it came down between two queens, either Ariete or Sam Starr, with Sam ultimately being announced as the winner of the week. Although some have argued that the episode's editing didn't showcase Sam Starr in enough of a way to make her win come across as more meaningful, which is sort of nonsensical. I mean, listen, having the episodes focus on giving screen time to as many contestants as possible, along with the subplot we got between Jewel Sparkles and Anya Nerve, allowed for there to be more of a sense of wonder as to how things were going to turn out. Plus, if the winner had ended up being someone that governed the majority of the episode, then people would have said that it was super predictable. Yet even beyond just these two contestants, the whole entire third episode was impressive because even though it was a design challenge, they all looked so opulent and expensive. Like, even Joella, while super basic, at least looked visually pleasing. Well, as visually pleasing as a self-made bodysuit can be. The only true bad look of the night was Lucky Star's. Lucky has had a pretty rough go, since she doesn't seem too happy about what she ended up showcasing in the 3 episodes she was in. I mean, obviously her talent show was a really good highlight, but in terms of her runways, she's been sharing how they were meant to be a lot more detailed, but that for some reason or another, she wasn't able to execute it properly and had to settle towards doing something else. Nina Bonina Brown, who was a good friend of Lucky's for a while, said that Lucky had actually been invited to compete on the next season of Dragula, and that just a couple weeks later, Drag Race called her to say that they would offer her a spot on season 17. Ultimately, we will never know how she would have done if she did in fact choose Dragula, but I don't fault her for choosing to go on Drag Race instead, even if she ended up being the first one to go home. It's just such a huge platform that it would be kind of insane to reject. And Dragula, despite having a decent cash prize of $100,000, isn't all that popular, so it won't offer you the most opportunities in your long-term career. Yet what made me even sadder about Lucky going home is how on the weekend of DragCon UK 2025 earlier in January of this year, the cast of season 17 was there to promote the season. Well, everyone except Lucky Stars, who said online that she wasn't able to attend because of issues she was having with her passport that would not allow her to fly. I remember when she said this, I thought to myself, well, at least she'll be able to enjoy the rest of the season as it airs, only to find out on episode 3 that she won't even be there for the rest of the season. But if you want to support Lucky, I advise you go follow her on social media, like on Twitter, but especially her Instagram that has some pretty insane looks. So I really don't think this is truly the end for her in terms of her Drag Race career. Yet the one thing I'll say is that it was really surprising that for being a queen that's so good at doing elaborate makeup, that she had never once done a normal drag mug. Since according to a lot of queens online, this seemed as if it was someone's first time doing drag. Although, speaking of bad makeup, Susie Too had one of the roughest faces I've seen since the mandatory meeting. It's been a critique that the judges gave her, especially on the premiere episode. Yet, you can't deny that her personality has made it so that you do see what her point of view is in a lot of what she showcases. I like that after the judges called her out that first episode, she clearly has been refining her mug in a pretty short amount of time, making it a clear night and day from her first week in the competition. This is literally the growth that you want to see from a contestant in a competition like this, and made someone that didn't look like too much of a threat sort of be more of a dark horse within the competition. Speaking of growth, the topic of a queen's padding has recently been put into the forefront of the series, whether it be on the show, the pit stop, or random online discussion. For example, Corey King has gotten a lot of praise from the judges and from Rue for how well she's proportioned her body and the way she pads. For a while, since around season 7, the drag world, more so the younger skinny queens, tended to express themselves with no pads and just their own real bodies. This tends to work for some queens more than others, coming down simply to which ones are more visually appealing than the rest. Yet I remember for a good period of time, the non-padding queens were seen as fashion forward. But now that it's become so common, it isn't as impactful as it once was. Instead, those that have good padding techniques are beginning to stand out from the rest. I mean, Trixie is a queen that has been very vocal about how a lot of the time, if certain queens padded just a little bit, it would elevate their look so much more, which let me know if you agree with in the comments below. So then, what else should we gather for the first 4 episodes of season 17? Well, off the bat, Lexi Love was for some reason labeled as the grandmother of the cast, so I was shocked when I found out that she was just 33 years old at the time of filming. It sort of put an emphasis that for the next season, production should focus on casting queens that aren't just all in their 20s. It would allow for a much wider scope for what we could see showcased in the competition. Instead, a lot of the times, queens in their 20s will focus more on mimicking queens from Drag Race past rather than bringing a genuine representation of themselves. But all of that being said, this cast is a great set of queens. Maybe the fact that a lot of them are on the younger side is why they know exactly what viewers want to see, since a good portion of the more active part of the fan base is the younger demographic. Yet, what do you think? Are you excited about how the first 4 episodes have set up the rest of season 17? Do you think it's gearing up to be as good or better than season 16? Let me know in the comments. And stick around if you want to hear a channel update from me. Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. If you want to help support the channel, make sure to click the link in the description to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain at Squarespace. Now, I don't usually give updates for the channel, but given that my personal life is undergoing a lot of changes, I thought that for those of you that want to hear, you can at least know what to expect from me in the next couple months. For starters, the past 3 years, I've been blessed to have YouTube be my only source of income, making it easier for me to get through my university studies. And so in June of 2024, I graduated and earned my degree. Anyways, flash forward 6 months to now, I've been working for a month at my first real job at an office, which is a pretty big deal in terms of the future of my professional career. Yet it is a full-time job, and it's taken a lot of time away from my day-to-day life, which has been a little difficult to adjust to. But in order to balance out my job with my channel and having a social life outside of all of this, here are some changes that I wanted to address. Moving forward, every month, you'll still receive a decent portion of videos from me. I'd say the content that most of my subscribers are here for is my super long videos about a given queen that is super highly researched, carefully planned, and straight up the reason that I love making videos, cause I end up learning new things too. Yet since those take the most amount of time for me to create, I'll instead be doing one long length video a month. But that's not all. I'll also be releasing videos covering topics that don't require as much research, but still have a clear point of view and something new to add to the conversation. These shorter videos will still be about 10 to 15 minutes in length, and my longer videos will be about 20 to 40 minutes in length, depending on what the topic is. Obviously, I'm still establishing a new routine for myself, so things could change as the year goes by, but I think giving you guys a balance between in-depth topics and more laid-back topics that are still interesting for you to watch will be the key in being able to still provide content for you in a weekly / bi-weekly pace. Another thing to add would be to not be afraid to look back on my older videos, even checking out my playlist where I list them out. Sometimes even topics that you may not be interested in will actually surprise you when you start watching the video, because I truly do feel that I put a degree of effort into my script writing that makes it fun to consume, or at least has a good pacing to it where I don't ramble too much on a random point. So anyways, I guess that's all I wanted to say, so thank you for those of you who decided to stay and listen to this update, and hey, comment below if you did stay to listen to this, and maybe if you have any advice on how to tackle this new crazy schedule I'll have. I want to take a moment to thank my 2025 patrons. In the Elite Pink Squad we have Matthew Burns, Gay Uncle, Sari Tish, Natasha De Leon, Las Potitas, Cool Gal Nan, and our newest Pink Squad member, please welcome Jetzam Adams. And in the Green Squad we have Cayman Rider Furry, or Diesel Placer depending on the time or day you catch him, Edgar Allan Pup, The Only Sean, IJS, Not a Punch but a Keek, Jack Beck, Bashir with the good beard, Galeria Gomez, Sarah G, Scarlet Rose, Boiled Peanut, Max Whale, Olivia Marr, and of course Dea. If you'd like to see your name on the screen, you can support me on Patreon. The link will be in the description, and I appreciate your support. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, go follow me on Twitter, check out my other videos, and I'll see you guys next time.